Welcome to Philly Fortune Talks with your host, Jake Penny, where the city's brightest minds share the secrets behind their success. Are you ready to be inspired?
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Philly Fortunes Talks. This is your host, Jake Penny. Today, we're excited to introduce you to Harry Hayman, a social impact, sustainability advocate, humanitarian, and philanthropist. Harry is dedicated to eradicating food insecurity through innovating indoor agricultural solutions, highlighted in his documentary, I Am Hungry. His career spans startup ventures, marketing, strategy, consulting, with a focus on connecting corporate leaders to community partners for impactful change. Active in the Philadelphia nonprofit scene, Harry's contribution includes supporting Alex Lemonade Stand Foundation and founding Feed Philly Correlation. His work amplifies a deep commitment to social causes and community empowerment. Thank you, Harry, for coming on board today. How are you?
I'm good, man. Thanks for having me. I'm like, who is that guy? Who's done all those, who's done all those things? Holy, he must be old.
Hey, it seems like you've done awesome things, through social impact and giving back to your local communities and supporting, major causes. So if you don't mind, give us a little brief introduction, background, what helped you, or what made you get started in all this?
Sure. Thanks for having me, Jake. I don't know if there was ever any one thing. I think specifically what we're focused on today is I Am Hungry. It's a documentary that we're shooting about food insecurity in Philadelphia. We're really just trying to figure out why there are 312,000 people that are hungry right now. And it doesn't seem to be top of mind for, I guess, enough people. That's not to say there's not a lot of great work and a lot of people trying in the space, but we're just coming up short. And it really should be on, every city council meeting. It should be on the lips of every corporation, every nonprofit, the 5 o'clock news. So that's the focus right now. Been in the restaurant business for, as I mentioned, or as the gray might suggest, too long. During the course of doing that, I realized there was tremendous waste in the food in the restaurant business, in the hospitality space, in all aspects of food service. And that's not from anybody not being efficient or trying. It's not ill will. It's just the reality of the inefficiencies of the system. So we got involved in trying to upcycle food, and we started in that space probably, I don't know, almost 10 years ago now. Upcycling wasn't even a term. So people were looking at us like, what, you want our trash? And I'm like, no, it's not that. Let's divert stuff that's still good, healthy, usable food. And let's figure out how to get it in the mouths of the people that need it. So I worked for a wonderful woman who started the Food Connect group, and helped her with logistics. As being a restaurateur, as I said, we sort of understood the restaurant mentality. Unfortunately for me, the restaurateur mentality. So, but we created an app. We made picking up food or donating food as easy as 1, 2, 3, because we said we got to keep this simple. Have food, how much food, what time we'll be ready to pick up. Boom. And I was frustrated by the amount of people that were not signing up. So I decided to go off, and I said we should, and this was at the time a little bit of a joke. I said we should introduce a law that makes throwing food away illegal. Mm-hmm. And this was probably 2017 or so. And it was like, yeah. Ironically, now there's a law making its way through California, just introduced in New York, right? That just that, throwing good, healthy, nutritious food away is illegal. Well, why is that? Not necessarily because we care about feeding people, we should, but it's about the environment. If you look at the history of recycling really started with, not really with, oh, we want to do the right thing for the planet. It's like, where are we going to put all this stuff? So if we separate out the cardboard and we separate out the glass, and we separate out the plastic, that's going to take the edge off the landfill. Well, that happened I don't even remember what year that was, but I'm old enough to remember my lifetime that we just randomly threw stuff away. Well, now what's the next biggest thing that's going into landfills? Well, 30 to 40% of landfills are wet trash or food. And it can be used for, like I said, feeding the less fortunate, but also can be used for animal feed, can also be used for compost. There's a lot of things that it can be used for. And I think we as a race, as humanity, is now realizing this abuse, our abusive ways, it's gonna have a toll. So we're more open to the mindset of recycling food. So we introduced legislation. So we were talked off the throwing people in jail for throwing food away, and we met with the NRA and the PERLA, Pennsylvania Restaurant Lodging Association. They said, we're not going to support it, Harry, but we will support a carrot, not a stick. So we introduced legislation to pay, quote unquote, pay restaurants $4,000 tax credit if you donate your food. Yeah. So we were successful. We got it introduced, and again, people not very responsive. I hired my bartenders, I hired my hostesses, and had them calling and sending, stopping by and, hey, can we get you to, upcycle your food? Go away, dude. And then, as all stories of this day and age, am I talking too much? Should I let you in?
No, you're good. You're
keep
doing
going.
it.
Just keep
You're doing
going. You might not get a word in edgewise for the rest of the afternoon. Anyway, as all stories include, unfortunately, this day and age, the pandemic hit, and people didn't want to hear from us about donating their food before the pandemic. They certainly didn't want to hear about it when they were trying to keep their restaurants open, us included. And so during the pandemic, we started feeding the less fortunate. We created what's called Hero Kitchen and just made meals. During the pandemic, I realized it's not rocket science, but as the cost of goods, as the products that I needed to buy to feed people continue to rise, my ability to do good went down. So I discovered controlled environmental agriculture. Hey, if we can grow our stuff ourselves, we can control the means of production, then we're masters of our own destiny. We now have a say in what we do with that food, who we give it to. We can create a food system that works for us all, not just for those who can afford it. And quite honestly, between you and I, Jake, don't tell anybody that we're eating crap, that industrial ag is deciding what we eat. I mean, it's not good for us. It's just crazy. It's crazy that we do that. It's crazy that we allow it, but we do. So it is
here in America, we do.
Here in America, exactly.
Yeah. Other places, a lot of the stuff is illegal.
Our stuff's illegal, exactly. And most people don't know.
We're allowed to poison our own people, but other people in other countries don't. I don't understand.
I don't understand either. But during the course of shooting the documentary, we've learned some fascinating facts, and that was one of them. Most people don't know that. Did you know that food is not a human right in the United States?
Really?
Right. We ask everybody, our closing question is food a human right? And everybody always says, of course. You can't live without it. Of course you gotta have it. It's like water, it's like oxygen, it's like anything. So we're doing one of the interviews a few weeks ago, and we asked the woman, is food a human right? She said, of course. She said, but did you know in the United States it's not? 32 out of 34 United Nations human rights are ratified by the United States. Food is not one of them. That is just fucking insane. Can I curse? No.
Whatever. Hey, be your authentic self.
You don't want that, believe me. Anyway, so I'm trying. During the pandemic, I was used to working 100 hours during the week and being in the restaurant business on an easy week. So wasn't quite sure what to do with myself. For the first couple of weeks, we slept. Everybody forgets that we always thought it would be 2 or 3 weeks. So I was like, this is great. Yeah. we discovered this thing called sleep, which we hadn't done in 30 years. So I got up, the pandemic was still going on. I kicked out a couple screenplays. We can schedule another podcast about that. That's a whole nother direction. But I had started my MBA back in, I won't even say when, a long time ago. And I took a 5-year leave of absence And I went back during the pandemic and they said 23 years later, I said, "Do you remember me?" And they said, "Nope." But anyway, once you script a check, they remember you real quick. So
Of course,
I,
of
I
course.
started as an entrepreneurial management major at Wharton and, going to be Goldman Sachs in the street and all that stuff. And, baseball, Chevrolet, apple pie, and Harry Hayman. But that wasn't meant to be for what that wasn't what was supposed to be. So I stayed and delved into the restaurant business. And, you don't, the only MBA you need in the restaurant business are these two things. And
Yeah, of
your
course.
will. But anyway, so I went back and I was a social entrepreneur major, and the reason why I was that is I was cranking right through. I wanted to finish up my MBA in the whatever time the pandemic was going to go on for. And then my guidance counselor was like, "Hey, dude, you got to declare a major." And I'm like, "Okay, pick one for me. I'm not really here for, the traditional reasons for an MBA. It's not a career change or anything like that." She said, Harry, knowing you the way I know you, I think social entrepreneurship would be good for you. And I said, "What's that?" And she said, "The business of doing good," which I loved. So I came out, I joined the Economy League, the Greater Philadelphia Economy League, as a senior fellow to food economy and policy, because my efforts, unfortunately, as a small 501c3, the Feed Philly Coalition, and as a relatively small restaurant, even though we're not small, but relative to the problem, there was only so much I could do. So I figured I needed to sit on top of the system and get everybody, singing jingle bells and doing the same thing. So upcycling, feeding the less fortunate, good quality, healthy, nutritious food is something that we should all be doing, something we're all not doing, but we're making some significant headway and movement to that front, which I can talk to you about in a second. But what I'd gotten away from by doing that position was I wasn't in the trenches. I had packed boxes, I delivered food, I had made food, I, kind of done it all in the space with my friends at Share and George and Lori over at Phil Abundance and Sue over at Manna and, all the great people, doing, yeoman's work in the space.
Yeah.
But, just little old me really wasn't able to move the needle. And for some reason, I want to be Mick Jagger. I want to be Axl Rose. I want to be Cal Ripken. So I gotta swing for the fences. So I said, I gotta move the needle on a more grander scale. So I'm trying to do that. But along the way, I'd gotten away from what am I doing today to help feed the less fortunate. And I was walking back from dropping my old jalopy off at the gas station around the corner. I said, "Make a doc, dude. You can do that." I produced some other films or making some other stuff. And I said, what's more important? I was making some B level horror films in the restaurant,
Okay.
just for shits and giggles. And
Yeah.
that's what we call the company, S&G Productions, just FYI, one of them. And so anyway, I said, we'll make a doc. And so we're doing that now, sir.
That's awesome.
Long answer to a short question.
It was a great answer. Nothing. So it's funny too, because I don't have a personal connection to like not having food, but it's been one of my like life callings. I always wanted to help people, right? Whether it was when I was in college, I wanted to go be a pre-med to open up my own practice to help people. When I was in business school, I wanted to help people. I just didn't know what I wanted to do, which way to go. And I wound up like dropping out and starting a few of our own companies. And at the same time, this was back in 2004, 2013. I always wanted to go and be like Tony Robbins. He feeds like a million people a year.
Yeah.
And so I was like, all right, how can I get involved? My life partner at that time and now, Liana, we were going to the gym down in Philadelphia every morning at like 5 a.m. And afterwards, instead of doing our cardio in the gym, we would fill our backpacks up with bagged lunches, run all over Center City. Any homeless person we saw, we were giving them, a water, a sandwich, a snack, and we would do that every single day. And it didn't cost much at all.
Sure.
I mean, the whole week, every day we would feed like 40, 50 people just running around the city. And it only cost us, I don't know, $40 for the whole week. It
Wow.
wasn't much at all to do that at that time. Now with
Mhm.
inflation and everything
Yeah,
now.
yeah, yeah. Food's out of control now. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I tried to start a 50c3. Didn't know. I thought you could just go and incorporate it and say you're a nonprofit and you'd be good to go. I
No.
did not know all the nuances behind it because I didn't have any mentor or anything to look at. I just said, hey, I want to do this, and
Sure.
I'm the guy that just wants something and he runs.
Yeah, yeah.
And it wind up getting pushed to the side to actually get off the floor.
Mhm.
But that was actually called Feed Philadelphia.
Oh,
Uh,
really?
it's so funny, spelled
Yeah.
P-H-E-E-D, Philadelphia.
Uh-huh.
I haven't done with anything with it in years, but it's just funny that, yours,
Small, yeah, small. Yeah, yeah,
is,
small world.
yeah,
Ironic.
it's pretty
Well,
cool.
you're helping now, so I appreciate it. But I'm gonna push back on you a little bit because you probably don't know, but you probably do have a personal relationship with someone that's food insecure. So
Definitely,
most
yes.
people think that it's like, hey, brother, can you spare a dime? And it's the person on the street. And don't get me wrong, it is certainly those, but a decent percentage, and I don't know the exact numbers, are the working poor. And that third or fourth month, that second week in between paychecks, or that third or fourth week if you're on benefits or whatever, it's a real struggle. I'll
You're
give you
definitely right there.
I'll give you a quick story. I'm from the main line, baby. I'm from, silver fucking spoon. Now we're new money. We're not the old money, and we're
Full
not that
money,
rich.
yeah.
But I went to a funeral not that long ago. And the guy giving the funeral was his dad. He had become a deacon. I don't know how he gave his own dad's funeral. I could never be able to do
Wow,
that.
wow.
But he's from out that way. And his dad had lost his job. And I remember heart attack, not good. Police chief. So not making a ton of dough, but still in out that way.
Blue
He
collar.
said these exact words, which is the very definition of food insecurity. We did not know where our next meal was coming from. Said those exact words, and I don't think he said it intentionally. So trust me, brother, you have no idea. Someone you're going and you're interacting with at the post office, you just don't know, because it's one of those invisible things where people are just like, I'd rather go hungry
Right.
and say something or do so. And that's one thing we've discovered in the documentary, where people have been very generous with their time, with their insights. We even had a woman say those exact words. No, I don't go to the food bank. I'm hungry, but I'm not going to do that. So there's a whole sect there, and she's working, she's trying. It's not from a lack of effort, because I think, middle America, tell them to get a job. We had Jeff Brown on yesterday, the supermarket magnate. We're like, Jeff, if SNAP works, and why don't we do more? And we saw in the pandemic that, it worked. And he's like, well, that's because, certain people out there like, why can't they get a job? That's sort of the mentality. And some of them do. A lot of
I,
them do.
I
A
think
lot
a
of them
lot of
do.
people struggle
Yep.
with getting out of their own way with
Yep.
maybe either pride or ego. They say, hey, I don't want to stoop down to that level or feel
Right.
like that. I have personal connection to that through a family member who didn't want to end up like her parents did, right? One of my, actually my great aunt, God rest her soul. She didn't want to end up like her parents, being at the doctors all the time and yada, yada, yada. So she took her pride and ego and not getting help and wind up passing away when
Hmm.
she could have got help and never actually
Sure.
lived a long, beautiful life. So, and not that that's the same thing as
No,
food
it's
insecurity, but the logic behind it is kind of the same thing. It's just, if you need help, don't be scared to ask for help.
That's right. That's right. And you see, I mean, one of the good things, I'm not a huge emotion guy and breathe and space in between meetings, but you see the MLBs coming out like, hey, if you need help, ask for help. So I mean, if it's reaching that kind of, public level, that mass level of mass marketing, so there may be some, trickle down effects, but it is really what you said is really the same thing, maybe not the direct
Right.
correlation, but if you don't eat, you're killing yourself. And especially,
Mhm.
and because your brain, your body needs needs nutrients.
Right. And the right nutrients too.
That goes without saying. So anyway, so yeah, so I'm trying. Some days I get up and I'm, go get them, and some days I'm like, you're wasting your effing time and money, dude. So it's
I hear you.
it's a little bit of a struggle.
Speaking of that,
Yep.
you say you wake up, sometimes it's a challenge, sometimes it's balls to walls, right?
Yep.
What does a day in a life look like for you, and how do you juggle everything else? Because you obviously you're a business owner, right?
Yeah.
You own multiple companies, but you also on the other side are a philanthropist and an
Yeah.
advocate. So
Yeah.
how do you juggle those few things? And I mean, my God, I mean, you're a high performer, I'm a high performer. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously we know what goes into it, but for
Yeah.
anybody listening, what does that look like for you?
Well, it starts at 5 a.m. So I get up, I move a little bit, not as much as I should. I meditate I have 5 non-negotiable things that I do every morning, which I of course negotiate on. And if I hit snooze or don't get up as early as I want, I skip and run to the Starbucks and get my espresso so I can get in front of the computer. That's 6 to 9 hours of kind of the most important for me, where I'm getting back to emails, I'm kind of planning the day, kind of, telling people ahead of time, hey, this is what I want to talk about. I hate having meetings without an agenda, I just don't have time to waste. And I just go back to back, and I should say no, and I don't. But I say yes to everything. So, I own a company called Philly Soul now. So it's an online music marketing company, which we started just because a comment my dad made. He said, if I didn't know about you and what you do and the places you're involved in, I just go to the Kimmel Center like everybody else out here on the main line. So we kind of started it music for music's sake, agnostic to venues, agnostic to artists. We just support music. And so, it could be a Philly Soul Now meeting. I invest in a hydroponic CEA, controlled environmental agriculture company. So we might have a meeting as far as that's concerned. I'm the senior fellow to food economy and policy. So I have meetings as it relates to the food economy, creating a fair, diverse, local, equitable, and dare I say just food economy, which, spoiler alert, we do not have. One of my projects that I'm knee deep in is called Philly Cooks for Philly. Philly, in its infinite wisdom, outsources all of our meals to Brooklyn. And makes no sense for our school kids and our seniors and our Parks and Rec programs. 18.4 million meals, I believe, $92 million goes to Brooklyn. Just insanity.
Wow.
So I know, right? Just stupid. We're just trying to we're trying to recapture that. So that's what I'm hot and heavy on. So that's taking up a lot of my time right now. You kind of go through things that are kind of hot. I think I mentioned I wrote a screenplay, and out of the blue, this woman called me from LA, and she's like, yo, we're talking about metronome. Everybody's trying to find their rhythm in life. It's a story about jazz in the last 50 years. All my stories are true, and all the money goes to a charity. They're attached to a certain charity. My goal is to give away all my money in my lifetime. I have a zero-sum game. I try and break even. I don't try. I do. Sometimes end up in the wrong way. But then I also have, the job, the job, which I book jazz for South Restaurant and Jazz Club. I book the private parties and special events. So, it's action-packed day. And then yesterday we filmed. So it usually goes from about 5 until I fall down. When I was younger, that was more around midnight.
Oh yeah.
It's not midnight anymore.
Burning the midnight oil.
Yeah, well, and I would only do that just because I knew I had to sleep some 3 to 5 hours. But then I learned how bad that is for your brain.
Right.
And, my priority now has been 10 to 5. I got to get that, at least that's 7, but sometimes I don't even make it to 10. So I was watching my beloved Orioles last night. When they went down 5, I said, okay, I'm out.
Cut the pain.
You just go to get some Z's. So I actually feel better today because I don't know what I got. I don't know what I actually slept, because I wake up and shit's on my mind. You know how it is. But anyway,
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's better ways to do it than I do it. I read all the emails, about being productive. I'm kind of brute force my way through it, I guess is the only way to, I'm Energizer Bunny. I'm up. I'm at it. I take the calls, I dig in, and try and have effective calls, try and have action-oriented calls. Okay, so we're going to talk about, this is what you're going to do, this is what I'm going to do. I try and send a follow-up email. This is what you said, motherfucker. So,
Absolutely.
just to try and
Hold
get
people
stuff done.
accountable. So doing all this, right, and having all these things going on, how do you approach financial planning, all that type of stuff to keep this well-oiled machine rolling? Obviously, it takes capital, it
Yeah.
takes manpower, human capital, and financial capital.
Yeah.
And you said you're investing in other companies. So what does that look like for you?
Well, I'm investing in cultured meat. I'm investing in robotics. I'm investing in the industries that I know, that I believe are the future. Controlled environmental agriculture, cultured meat, robotics, all that stuff. I honestly, I probably could do a better, I could do a better job. It's really not. It's just kind of a crapshoot. It's just try and bring in more than you go out. And,
Right.
you try and you go, oh shit, okay, whoops, I can't pay that one this week. I got you. I mean, I'm really good at. I mean, I'm transparent. This is when I'll have some cash flow. I hustled when I was younger. It's a long story. That's a whole nother. I wrote my first screenplay was called An Appetite for Destruction, a decade of denial, debauchery, decadence, and deceit. It was about running wild and crazy Irish party balls all across the country. It's a true tell-all. But fortunately, we made some scratch, doing that. So it's our immediate needs are not quite what they are for everybody else. People ask me if I have kids. I say, no, I have restaurants,
Okay. I mean, that can be pretty damn close.
terrible twos, man. They from what I understand,
Yeah.
they're remarkably similar. If you can get them to 10, they're good, And
I don't have any kids. I just have a dog, but he sure reminds me of why I don't necessarily want kids or want them yet.
Right.
Well, it was a pleasure having you, Harry. How can someone get in contact with you, learn about more what you're doing?
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, these documentaries cost a bunch of dough. So we did just start a Kickstarter. We have, I Am Hungry, Philadelphia is our website. I Am Hungry Philly is our Instagram. You can find us, Google us if you want to find us. We're just asking for everybody to give $1. We're not looking for a ton of dough. $1. Your name will be in the credits, even if it goes on for days. We're going to have 25,000. We're not trying to raise the whole money. We anticipate the thing's going to come in around 50K we're doing original music score, coloring it. There's all kinds of things I never knew about. We got lights, camera, action. We got all the good cameras and we got all the good lights and all the good audio. Because when I say if it's successful, because I couch myself with my teams, like say when it's successful, when it gets picked up, we are shooting at 4K and all the necessary technology stuff to be able to stream it. But we're just looking for half the dough. And then if you want to do 1K, we're going to have an exclusive screening probably here at the private party event space. You can have dinner with the guys that made it. If you want to have dinner with us, we'll buy it. And then we're going to, I'm going to call in favors. I know people at the Kimmel Center. I know Jeff up at the Met, I'm like, hey, can you show my documentary? We'll see what they say, but we're committed to getting it out there. But just, if not, like, follow, share, just be aware that this is a problem out there. If there's anything you can do, certainly supporting the existing agencies are great. My point, and this occurred to me the other day, was there's 312,000 people hungry. What are they doing? But they're doing things all day. So what's scary is if they weren't, what does that mean? There'd be 500, 600, 700, 800, I mean, these are people. It's not, it annoys the shit out of me. I'm like, I'm all for the elephants. I'm all for SPCA. I really am. But we gotta priorities, man.
Take care of the people locally first, and then
Yeah.
solve the problem, and then build out.
Yeah, and the stupidity of the whole thing is it actually helps you and me that people are eating. And it's not just a Black issue. It's not just a white issue. It's not just an Hispanic issue. It's not an American Indian issue. It's not Asian. It's all of us. It's the great common denominator.
Mm-hmm.
We all eat. And what I was hoping from the pandemic was that would galvanize us. And finally, we've all gone through something else together, because no other experience other than the pandemic has everybody had. Food is close, but within food's experiences are very different for everybody. But at least it's a common denominator. It's Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Let's feed people, let's clothe people, let's house people, and then let's go take care of the elephants in Kenya.
Right. Awesome, Harry. Well, it was a pleasure having you, and I look forward to having you potentially on another call. We could definitely go on for longer.
You have no idea, my friend.
Thanks
for doing it. Thanks for reaching out. We sincerely appreciate it. Thanks for the airtime, and best of luck to you.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to Philly Fortune Talks with Jake Penny. Inspired to share your success story? Visit phillyfortunetalks.com/guest and let's inspire together.